Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, we have something super unique. We've got a couple special guests. Clayton Thomas is here with us. He is the CEO of a company called Root, which I'm extremely excited to talk to you guys about because of what Root products can do. It's something that I've been looking forward to, experimenting with myself for a long time. And I was actually introduced to the Root product by my good friend and colleague, Sasha here. So she's joined us. I know she'll have a few questions and some input about her experience with the product, but we're going to get into a little bit of background and, what the product's all about and all that coming up next. So stay tuned. We're missing a piece of the puzzle. You start getting healthy and you just become a better person. We need to start focusing more on the individual. Okay, so Clayton, I am extremely happy to have you here. This is the first time that we've ever done anything like this, speaking about a product at all, because I'm very, very careful about any products that I talk to my group about. But I definitely wanted to, first of all, talk to you a little bit about your history. Could you give us a rundown of who you are, what you do, what's your specialty?
It's Chris. Thanks for having me. It's kind of the same thing as the opportunity to have, diverse conversations and meet new people. And, I know exactly what you mean when you talk about introducing products and different things to groups of people, because we have our community and, whether it's family or our larger collective family, we have to be very protective of those, especially in today's environment. And you ask the existential question that most people always try to figure out on their own. It's like, who are you and what are you and where'd you come from? And really, and it's, in our approach with Root, I have myself and my wife, that are very, very diverse in backgrounds. I grew up in a veterinary practice. So I was really fortunate to be around animal and human medicine, from the allopathic approach, but also the integrative approach from the time I was 2, going all the way throughout the majority of my life. I was banned from being a doctor when I was 12. Right. So exactly. Hold on. What? It's like my dad, I can remember I was in surgeries, in the exam rooms, in the lab with my mom under a microscope when I was 9 and 10 years old, looking at parasites and bacteria and different things and stool samples and blood samples to understand, look, this is what red blood cells look like. This is how things function. This is what parasites do. These are how things work. And being in surgery with my dad and saying, okay, this is what organ systems look like. And, here's some anatomy and physiology live and in living color. And I was on a farm call with, driving in the truck with my dad. You have the conversations about what you want to do when you grow up and, those ongoing conversations as a kid. And it's like, okay, I want to be like you because I love all of this stuff. He's like, no, you're banned from being a doctor. You're not allowed to be a doctor. Time sucks, money sucks, and you have to figure out what your path is. And I was like, okay. Cool. And so I was fortunate, from an athletic performance standpoint, that I was able to compete in the Pac-10, now the Pac-12 at Washington State University as a sprinter. I pretty much maxed out my physical potential. But through that educational process, I was given a degree in humanities with a focus in business communications and kinesiology. Because I studied a little bit of everything. Initially, I studied broadcasting because I loved Dick Vitale growing up. And that was, since I couldn't go into medicine, I wanted to go in something involving sports and performance because it was such a major focus in my life. And I loved Dick Vitale and watching college basketball games from growing up. So I studied a lot of broadcasting and communications. And then as an athlete, I studied, really got into athletic training when I got over to Washington State, because I spent a year and a half at a junior college to develop physically so I could compete at the level that I had, wanted to attain. And, got to have some amazing experiences in the athletic realm, studying physiology and anatomy and, sports performance and getting injured. I tore my hamstring, pretty severely on national television at Hayward Field at the University of Oregon. So the mecca of track and field.
Wow.
I got the courtesy clap. And if you're an athlete or if you're not an athlete, there are few things in life that you actually don't want to experience. The courtesy clap from thousands of people is something that you never want to hear going for you. It's debilitating. But going through that process, and my head trainer at Washington State University, Mark Smaha, was really influential in my path, because as I was in the training room for 6 months working on rehabbing, he told me, it's like, look, you don't want to do this. I mean, and it was the second time. The first time my dad's telling me, you're not going to do this. And then Mark Smaha was like, you don't want to become a trainer. You don't want to go down this path, because if you get really good at it, you're going to end up babysitting high paid kids. I'm like, okay. And I listened. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. What I didn't know is that, the movie We Are Marshall, the Marshall football team, the Marshall football team that died in the plane crash. Well, back in I think it was the early 80s or so, the Marshall University football team was on a road trip. So they're on a flight. The plane crashed, killed everybody, except I think one person might have lived. But Mark was the head trainer on that team and didn't go. He actually sent one of the student trainers on the trip. So I didn't know, no one really knew, that he had the worst survivor guilt you could ever have. And he was addicted to painkillers at the time, long before opioids were popular. He was popping them just to deal with the pain that he had. So I didn't know where he was coming from, but years later, after I graduated, I was helping him help his wife with breast cancer. So we got to have this conversation where he started to talk through what he'd gone through. I was like, well, you had a pretty influential position in my life about my career path, so I appreciate it. I didn't know it was drug induced or trauma induced, but all right. So ended up taking more business classes in business law, and you go through the process of working with your advisor, and my advisor's like, you can graduate. I'm like, I'm really not done yet. They're like, well, we can give you a degree in humanities and you can be done. I'm like, okay. So, and when you look back, you go, what do you do with a degree in humanities? It's like, well, the only thing you really can do is become a humanitarian. You go, so when I got out of college, it really began the journey of allowing me to learn how to learn, which I learned in school. But then when you're no longer inside someone's construct and you have the ability to study whatever you want, whatever you have interest in, whether it's art or whatnot. And really, when you look at life, and this is the fun argument that many people have with my wife, because she has a master's in science, a PhD, a PsyD, an EDD, a postdoc at Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, Cornell in pharmaceutical management and nutritional counseling. She was an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins in oncology, and she's been at Pfizer, Alexion, Biogen, IDEC, Johnson & Johnson, UCB, BMS, and you go, well, she's not educated enough. I'm like, I only have a humanities degree, and they attack her because she's a woman. I'm like, Elon Musk doesn't have much of an education. Bill Gates is considered the vaccine guy, and all he was good at was putting viruses in computers and then putting viruses in people. I'm like, come on, people, let's look at this. So it's been this interesting journey. But about 16 years ago, I got introduced to a concept that really changed my approach, which was this zeolite conversation. And that's where my entire philosophy on nutrition, wellness, and performance took a literal 180-degree shift, because we've been taught all throughout our experience, no matter where you go in health and wellness, that the key is addition, right? Whether it's diet, lifestyle, exercise, it's what you have to do, what you have to add. There's a supplement for this, there's a drug for this, do this, do this. But what if it's not that? What if it's actually just a really simple equation of addition by subtraction? And you go, oh, snap. Because when I started to do my research, and you look at heavy metal toxicity, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum, cesium, strontium, we can go down the list, and now we can add graphene and glyphosate and other stuff. These are actually the causes of all of our issues. I mean, like literally, we'll say 95+%. And even with some of the real genetic issues that we think are genetic, and I hadn't really delved into those until the last 2 years because of having conversations with people. And there's two that really ring the most relevant, which one is Down syndrome and the other is sickle cell anemia, right? Is we're taught these are genetic conditions. And you really can't change Down syndrome. But when you look at the data that's published, those two issues are caused by mercury exposure in the womb early on in fetal development that causes damage to chromosomes that causes these issues. So you go, everything correlates back to the exposure to heavy metals and environmental toxins. A lot of it starts in the womb, and these things are passed down maternally. So what's in your great-grandmother or your great-great-grandmother is partially in you. And then we're exposed every day, that we're breathing and we're out of the womb to more stuff. And this stuff just builds up in us. And you go, well, wouldn't it make sense to work on removing that stuff first versus adding more stuff in? Because you're not going to rebuild a house that's still on fire. It doesn't work that way. It's like, okay, you want an epic fail? Throw money at something and just let it burn. You go, I'm not seeing the outcomes I want. It's like, yeah, it's because it's being wasted. So my last 16 years has been really, really focused on that, with initially the distribution and then the research and, then marketing, consulting, product formulation, product manufacturing. And then 6.5 years ago, I got to thank John Sally. If you're a basketball fan, got to give a shout out to John Sally.
I love John Sally.
That's my wingman. You got grab a chair, come hang out. Or I can give you my chair and I'll sit here. I have the special guest. She just arrived. So see, John introduced us. It's perfect because I'm going to start talking about you, which is my favorite subject. So have a seat. I'll sit. So
hello.
So we were introduced by John Sally, and then when I heard her voice, I knew this was who I was supposed to serve and work with. So I went from living in Seattle to moving to Nashville in 2 weeks, and we were able to to then over a few years kind of work with what I had done, what she wanted to do, what she could create, because she comes from biotech and pharma and traditional, you can say traditional healthcare in many different aspects. But
which was a lot easier than this world for me. Pharmaceutical and biotech was very easy for me. This world is very competitive and people aren't as nice. In pharmaceutical and biotech, they just did everything for me. But anyway, it seems like it would be the reverse. But the nutraceutical supplement world, I don't know, the pharmaceutical biotech, as a scientist doing what I did, we were very protected. So instead of me getting sued or me getting attacked, it's kind of like, I guess.
You attack Pfizer.
I didn't attack Pfizer.
No, not you, but someone.
Oh yeah, they would go after the pharmaceutical. So as a female, I felt more protected than I do in this world. This world, when I do a patent, it's under my name. And so your patents are the most litigated. I don't know if you guys know this, they're the most expensive litigation in the world. And so what they do in the pharmaceutical industry is they'll put 100 patents around one product, and they'll use different scientists with each one, but they assign it to the company. So the company has to fight it. In the supplement nutraceutical world here, it's under my name. So any issues that happen, any debate, let's say someone dies of a stomach problem, but they say, well, I took this supplement that day. Do you know what I mean? Then so anyway, I've had to grow up a lot. put on my, you have a choice. You either stand up and deal with stuff or you quit. Right. And so, but I don't know who these individuals are. I don't want to talk about me. I'd like to ask who they are.
Well, we'll do that in a second. I was just going over the fun part.
All right.
So yeah, we got to meet, and you can see she's a little bit different. This is why her show is scientifically beautiful, because you go, science has never looked this good.
That's not what anyone says. No one says that.
I do.
No one says that.
So we came together, and she she's known like the current environment that we live in, that we've been dealing with the last 2 years, was coming about 5 years ago. And there was a prophecy put over her about 27 years ago that told her she was here to heal people in a battle on healthcare. No one knew what that meant. We do now.
I didn't understand what it meant. And actually, my ex-husband and I were going through counseling and different things, and religious with, spiritual, basically healing. And the group came and told us this. And someone had told me that when I was little, and I said, you can't have a war on healthcare. This was 20 something years ago. I'm like, what does that mean? That's not. And at the time I was more into art probably than anything. And I was like, well, if someone's going to have a war in healthcare, I don't know how I can be involved. And anyway, you just don't understand, back then, like I said, the only war we really knew about when I was in my 20s were war, like nuclear bombs and stuff like that. Anyway, it was I'm a very strong Christian. It was very ironic how all of this turned out. But anyway.
So, I mean, based on what she knew, she wanted to create to do the things she wanted to do to take care of herself and take care of the family. Then we said, okay, I've got to create an approach and a business model that will allow us to take what you want to do out to more people than just our immediate family, because we wanted to grow our family. And that's why we created Root, and we have the Root community. So now our family is in over 50 countries and over 40,000 people. So that's the brief synopsis. You got the end of it. So this is Chris. This is his show.
Okay. Hi, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris James, and this is one of my colleagues, Sasha.
Sasha.
She actually introduced me to Root. So I don't know if Sasha, if you want to share how you came across finding.
So I'm a cancer survivor. I had cancer 3 times in 2 years, right? And so one of the people that were instrumental in me healing through the journey was Errol, and I think you know Errol. He's part of the Roots community. And so he introduced me to it because I run a wellness center here in Toronto. And I have a number of cancer coaching clients that I work closely with, helping them to navigate their journey. Because that's kind of, as I went through the journey, you know yourself, Christina, life changes, perspective changes. And I felt a calling to kind of help people navigate their journey in any way that I could, using everything that I learned. Because like you, Clayton, I decided to study and dedicate my life to health and wellness. And so I switched from a background or profession in HR and business to health and well-being. I'm a nutritional microscopist. I look at blood for a living. And so, yeah, I just, I found out about Root products from Errol, and I've got all my clients on them. And so, yeah, so far I feel amazing. And we'll talk about the benefits I felt as we go through. But yeah, I had to introduce it to Chris because Chris also is, like me, very passionate about helping people and giving them proactive tools, you know, to help themselves, because it's all about accountability. We all are responsible for our health and well-being.
Thank you for telling me that about yourself, because I connect a lot. You probably know this. You're probably the same way with people that have had cancer because of what I've been through. And I just got off a call with doctors. We do this doctor to doctor call, I don't know, every other week or something like that. I have 2 of those today. But my goal with that product was to use a product that could be utilized to go into the body, eradicate things out. And of course, and I say this, and this sounds weird, but selfishly, I've had cancer, I've had Lyme disease, I had a brain tumor, I had a spinal tumor. There's nothing that matters more than your health, right? So for me, a lot of these products, and then I had a child with cancer. I mean, these were personal choices, you know, for me to work on, and I'm pretty protective of that product, and particularly because I want us to be able to help more and more people, especially people like you, Sasha, who have been through things like me. Which it's when you face life or death, you grow up pretty quick.
Absolutely.
That's what
absolutely.
Like I have people tell me that gosh, you're humble. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I don't understand that comment really, because I almost died multiple times and I'm here. Cancer humbles you, right? Your health brings you down to, look, I can die. So while I'm here, I better do some stuff that really matters. because I could die tomorrow. You know, that's kind of where I was when I was 25 years old. So.
I was curious. So you started off in pharmaceuticals, working with, all of these very popular companies. How, like, would you say that what you do now is like a contrast of what you used to do? And then, like, how did you make that transition, or why?
It was a really hard transition. In fact, if I'm really honest with people, I miss it, sometimes, because I was on the medical, clinical, and science side, and with what I did, and at one point I was on the sales and marketing. Actually, 2 companies, they moved me right over, to the science clinical. I loved being able to go into doctors' offices and explain molecules or explain drugs, but they needed me on the medical science and clinical side. And my background was really psychology. I had a master's of science, but I had a doctorate degree in counseling and psychology. And I wasn't planning on doing that for a living. So they sent me back to school and they brought me into the lab and taught me everything. It is an extreme contrast for me, because before I just worked with doctors and research and societies and governments and, major, what we call GPOs, which are insurance companies, and getting them, throughout FDA, stuff like that. Now, I basically have to depend a lot on myself, because I formulate products. Most people, and that's your biggest issue with like patent litigation, your lawyers and your judges don't even understand the formulas and what you did, right? So like anytime I do a formula, I study every patent there is on that ingredient and every product there is. And then I change it to do, because I'm a nanotechnologist, I don't like to put a lot of nano particles in products. I like to use the manufacturing process so that it's more bioavailable and more efficacious and safe. But I don't want to put things into people's body that can alter. However, I do understand because I worked for like Bristol Myers Squibb on vaccines and antivirals, I do understand that if you are injecting someone with something to get rid of it, you've got to use technology that'll get rid of it, right? And so I get all of that. It was extremely hard. I was very close to people. I went to different companies, but just so you know, in that industry, it's like a club. So once you get to an executive level, you're kind of handpicked, and you do these like FDA presentations or these research meetings, and then there's the after party, and then there's the after party, and then there's the after party, right? So you kind of made it to that level when you get to go to all of those. And we won't talk about what happens at those, but it is, I was married to an ex-professional football player, so I'll say this, and I've been in the music industry and investments and stuff like that. It doesn't get more
debaucherous.
I don't know what word I want to use. It doesn't get more. I don't want to talk negatively. It's very much party, right? And different things going on.
Rock stars can't keep up with Pharma.
So this sounds horrible. I'm just being honest with you, because you asked me a question. It was hard for me to transition. I decided what happened was I ended up I had a partial molar pregnancy when I was young and lost one of the twins, and then miscarried 2 other twins, second trimester. I had all kinds of cancer, all kinds of issues. Then I had a 2-year-old that got sick with cancer. He had a tumor on the chest wall, went into Vanderbilt. He's now 17. But at the time, I was still working in biotech and pharma, and very thankful I was working in that. But the more I was exposed to and the more I saw and the more I knew, and I wanted to help parents, for example, that had children with cancer, we would do molecules and drugs, for example, that we would shelve. I would work on an investigator-sponsored trial for like sarcoidosis, scleroderma, where people's like lungs would encase in a shell, and then we'd shelf it. And then I would see things where I was talking to doctors and tell them part of the story, but not the whole story, right? And it's like giving a vaccine, but not telling you what can happen. And I was one of the main people doing it, because I was on the science side. So I reached a point where I'll be honest, I just couldn't sleep. And so I decided I'm going to start a company that does evidence-based medicine, that per diagnosis, you do the research and you find out what the best treatment is, and you don't just listen to the pharmaceutical and medical device companies. And I did a talk in Washington, D.C. with a lot of senators and representatives, a lot of politicians. And I made a comment that there's a lot of spine surgeries that are done anywhere from 40 to 70% that have no evidence base, no efficacy. And then I wouldn't do that to my dog, let alone a human being. But yet we're doing it in the United States, and we have 70% more surgeries than any other country. The doctors are making $7 to $14 million a year, and the medical device distributors are making even more. And I knew that because my ex-husband was a medical spine distributor and one of the top in the country, and I knew what he made. Right. We were making that money. I mean, our family had that money. And so, but it was my conscience. You know, again, it goes back to when you've had cancer at a young age and you have children and you can't sleep at night, then you just make a decision to, you know, to pivot. It was a very hard decision, and it was hard. I got a new car every 2 years. I traveled, I stayed at the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, first class, I can't even describe the money, right? And so, you know, it was a transition, and I'm very thankful that I made that transition. But again, I left a very protected environment to kind of be out there and against that environment. And it's been a struggle. Like our legal bills alone every year are $500 to $1 million. You know, at a pharmaceutical company, they spend 30 million. They don't care, right? They're used to fighting it. But in this space, it was hard. But no, I made the pivot. I don't think I've ever said that on an interview, but I did. I know I haven't, but I made the pivot because of my conscience. I just felt like this is not the right place for me. And I knew it was going to be hard. I'm still friends. Like Clayton knows this, I just got an offer from a CEO to make a skincare line from the pharmaceutical industry last week. And I'm still friends with them. So I don't like to talk bad. In fact, if you look at a lot of the CEOs of those top companies, I worked with them. Yeah. That's
very, very interesting. And, you know, I can understand the difficulty of your past, but I mean, I love the fact that you allowed your conscience to guide you. Sounds like a Disney movie, but I mean, you don't really see that. I don't feel like you see that very often, where people are convicted and they're like, you know what, I got to change. We got to do better. So I applaud you. And I'm sure you knew that it was going to be a challenge making that transition. I mean, you know, we know how feisty the pharmaceutical company can get. And so I would like to say I appreciate you doing that, because
me too.
When it comes to the Root product, it's something that I personally have been looking for. Either one of you, would you like to speak to Root's ability and what it actually does? Because one of the things that really drew me to it was the fact that it has the ability to draw out heavy metals. Is that right?
You want to go over Clean Slate?
Yeah, Clean Slate's different. I just, like I said, was talking about this product because I made lots of different versions throughout the years of different types of silicas, silver ions, different types of HOCl, different types of zeolites. But Clean Slate was a formula where what I wanted to do was to create something that could safely help people get rid of heavy metals and different toxins, environmental toxins in their body. Because, you know, environmental toxins, anywhere from viral particles to bacteria to parasites to fungus to heavy metals to pollution, right? They're everywhere. And that's what causes epigenetics. That's what causes autoimmune disorders. It triggers the body. So I wanted to use something that eradicated and helped get rid of that in the body, but at the same time healed the body. So I produced a formula, or worked on various formulations that I actually submitted to Clayton, which had, because how it works as a scientist, this is funny, a lot of people don't get this. I'll make a lot of different formulas, and then I'll put it in front of the company, but they get to make the decision. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like I may work on 20 to 30 different formulas on one product, and then they decide which one they wanted. So when they first launched Root, I wasn't at Root. I was actually working on a COVID-19 project with a pharmaceutical company, trying to do an emergency authorization, and had left another company that didn't go great when I left. And then I actually worked on all these different formulas. He picked one of the variations that I didn't want him to pick because it's his company. And I don't own Root. I don't own the company. I can't make those decisions. And so he made a decision to put a product in that I thought was not the best product I had made. So I said, that's your decision. I would prefer if you choose this other one. So finally, when I came over in March of this year, he decided to bring on the formula that I wanted, where I had worked on producing really where the silica could go into the body, help the body heal while this was happening. I used trace minerals and different types of polarization, again, magnets, fracking, a process called fracking, electrolysis that would help it go into the body and heal and safely remediate things. And at the same time, supplement any trace minerals which the body would need while it's taking the ones out, the heavy metals out that it doesn't need. A lot of people did not like that he made the change because this formula is stronger. This formulation tastes different. And then I just said to Clay, I said, they can put it in juice, they can put it in green tea, they can put it in something else, but this is a formula that will help people more. And that's how we came with this. Or how, thankfully he chose this variation. He still has other ones he's sitting on. Like I made one that has to do with getting rid of the toxins and metabolizing alcohol. Like I just did a lot of different things, for Clay that he could choose. And so the current formula is very good at helping the body basically safely get rid of the heavy metals by ripping them apart and taking them out, but then supplementing with the silica and the trace minerals and the vitamins. And a lot of people are like, why does it say vitamin C is one of the main ingredients? Actually, it's a silica that is, but vitamin C was one of the strong formulations used so that it could go throughout the body and really be more bioavailable. And it's kind of like when you create a formula, if you use certain types of catalysts or vitamins or minerals, it kind of puts a propeller like a plane, onto it so that it can go throughout the body. And that's how I made that particular formula.
Yeah, I think it's important that when you're extracting, I mean, those heavy metals, they're taking up space. They're taking up space in the bone. They're taking up space where like other minerals and things are supposed to be. So being able to replace that, it sounds intelligent, because otherwise you have a cavity that something can grow in or breed in, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know exactly how it works, but it seems like you should replace what's been extracted.
Well, and the effects that the body has from the movement of those metals and toxins over time, for men, it's not as big of an issue. But when you talk about bone storage, lead is actually one of the primary metals that is stored in bone, and it actually starts to leach out of bone around the age of 40 to 50. So for men, we don't get to see it much, but for women, you get this thing called menopause, right? To where your bones become brittle, you become hormonal, you get brain fog. That's the lead leaching out of the bone back into the bloodstream, because lead's a neurotoxin. So it leaves the bones brittle because it had displaced the calcium, right? So your bones become brittle, so you have osteoporosis. It gets into your bloodstream where it's also hormone mimetic. Well, it will mimic estrogen. So it will block estrogen binding sites. So your natural estrogen builds up in your bloodstream. So you become a hormonal mess. Other lead goes to your brain and causes brain fog. The medical establishment calls it menopause. It's like, no, you're just lead poisoned. And the interesting part is when you look at demographic studies on lead toxicity is also known and proven to decrease IQ, increase rates of unwed mothership, and increase rates of violent crime. So when you overlay the areas of the United States
like
Detroit,
and I don't mean to be, but when that all came out, my first thought was, well, you're creating areas of poverty, you're creating areas of lack of education, you're creating areas where there's so many issues, but no one wants to take responsibility for it. But I'm sorry, how long was that going on in Detroit where no one knew? How many generations were being affected by that, honestly?
Detroit, DC,
and
Baltimore,
not
Atlanta.
Everybody has money to buy filtered water systems. Not everybody has money to go buy a supplement. Not everyone has money to go buy water. And the reason I'm saying this is because my son, I used to work in the projects in Pritchard, Alabama. My son works in Kentucky. And I just think one of the things we never think about as people is that, and this goes back to root even. Clayton knows how I feel. I feel like, okay, we've got to develop something that's really, we have a sample program, we give out samples, but there's a big population that can't afford these kinds of supplements or any supplements, right? And so one of my missions is to develop this so that all people can have these products, because every time I hear people talk about, well, it's real easy, take X, Y, and Z, including root. I'm like, it's not that easy for everyone. Some people don't have money. They don't have money to buy food for their table, let alone to do these other things. And the reason I'm bringing that up is I do think that these issues have been going on for a long time, and that people were not aware. And I think that to say they haven't impacted large groups of people, and Clayton's right, predominantly in spaces where the wealthy don't live, right? So it's not impacting them as much. I mean, it's a problem that has to be addressed. And heavy metals is one of the areas that unfortunately are, like Clayton said, in areas of the country that are overlooked, is the word I'll use. Look, I'm a female. I am a half, I'm Cherokee and Choctaw. I don't look like that, but I am. And I can say this, I have not had to suffer a lot from being a minority, but as a female, doing what I do as a scientist, I'm just going to let you guys know, it has not changed as much as people think. That's what I'm going to say. When everyone says, well, all this has been fixed, and I don't think I'm a victim, I'm sure you guys don't either, but I'll say this, there's a lot of room for improvement. And we've got to make some major changes. And one of those is making sure we educate people that there are these issues, and that we've got to help people. And one of those areas is cleaning up and detoxing certain areas of the country. So next year, we're hoping to bring on the foundation that I'd started years ago to help do some of that stuff at root. And that's really important to me. Actually, very important. Clayton knows that.
Yeah, I love that.
I just got off on a tangent. I'm so sorry.
I'm really glad you shared that. I'm glad you really shared that, because I think it's really important. I mean, my center is located in an area where it's quite affluent, but obviously I don't come as a child. I didn't grow up in an affluent area. So it means a lot to hear you say that, because there are people that they can't afford my services, unfortunately. And I wish I could reach more people, because people really need it, especially in this time.
You will be able to, the more successful you are, the more that you're able to do it. I've just noticed that every time, like, we are just starting to give out samples when people need product that don't have the money to do it, or when they're doctors or people that want to try it, I'm actually will approve samples, to be sent. But of course I want to go into communities. Clay knows this. I always thought I was going to be a missionary, and I ended up not being a missionary. I actually have been exposed to almost every religion out there. And I love all the different religions I've been exposed to, because I've traveled, to over 80 countries and seen good and bad of everything, but really learned to appreciate the spirituality of different religions, and not just the one I was raised in. And I still have this love, and this will come into fruition next year, of helping people in different areas that need help, and not just the United States, but also other areas of the world. So anyway, there's a lot of room for us to help, not just in the supplement space, but also monetarily, for different groups.
And you can say the business model of Root was also built around that, because as she was mentioning, her philosophy is how we can help as many people as possible. And we built an entire system around really the philosophy that we are all of value, and we all create value. It doesn't matter your socioeconomic status or your demographics, where you grew up, where you're from, where you live. We are all of value. We all have the ability to create value. While you might not have the ability financially to purchase something at this point, you do have the ability to create value. And one of the really amazing aspects that we created, as much so the philosophy that we built was around what Amazon had done, which was create a free account and you can purchase products. But we did something a little bit different than Amazon did.
We didn't do this. He did this, so I can't take credit.
She's the science side. I'm the creative one. Did I get credit for that? I got credit for something.
I didn't do that, so I can't take credit.
So the approach was, look, if you can't afford to buy something, but you love the philosophy or the brand, and you say, well, I'm going to create a free account. I'm going to share my username or my code with my friends because I know they're going to want it too. And maybe they're in a little different financial space. If I share this with them and they make purchases, I get rewarded for it. I get points. I can then get products for free. And then as they continue to use it, or if they share with their friends, I'm the one who created that value. I get rewarded for it. Now I've got money. I can buy more products. I can make a grocery bill payment, as Christina was talking about. And I will tell you, there is nothing more enlightening than getting emails and text messages and instant messages and stories from people going, look, I couldn't afford this initially, but I told some friends I got product for free. I was able to send my daughter on her trip around Europe for her 18th birthday. And the products have changed my life. And, and now we're seeing what that's taken place in other people's lives because of that. It's like with Sasha being here, right? Her involvement came from that process of having a couple people go, wow, these things are really cool. We need to tell some friends about it. And we're here. And we've seen this now go all over the world to some people of severe affluence, multi-billionaires, and people that, and I mean this, have nearly nothing. But it's understanding that no matter where you are on that socioeconomic scale, we are all of value. We just wanted to make sure that we could reward everyone equally, because unlike when we were growing up, when we were younger, we talk about the 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, right? That we're all 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, right? I know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Kevin Bacon. We are 6 degrees away from every person on this planet right now because of social media, because of how we're connected. So every one of us is tremendously valuable. It is our behavior that's created multi-trillion-dollar market valuations in companies that all they do is farm our information. We willingly give up content to companies that aggregate that information. We'll call it metadata and sell it. Mm-hmm. And have made trillions of dollars and only keep it for themselves. Why not take a lot of that money and put it back into the community, into the people that created the value? That's really the concept. And the more we bring in, the more we're able to give, the more I'm able to listen to her, and we give away more.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm with Sasha. I love it. I actually the product is extremely reasonably priced, especially for what it does, and the value that's created from sharing it is immense. Like it's actually pretty shocking how giving you all are. And I did want to backtrack a little bit because I do want to get into the product more. But before we move there, I was curious, Christina, you were talking about how actually both of you were talking about how certain areas, certain demographics of people are impacted by, heavy metals and lead and whatnot. And I'm curious, do you think that this was something that, people were aware of? Like, where was the scientific community aware of it? Was the government aware of it? Like, what is this? Is this something that they've been aware of? Is it being done on purpose? Like, or is it just overlooked?
Oh, you and I are going to have a different response on this.
So I'm going to answer, and then I have to go, and I apologize. I have a 2:00 meeting. I left this one, and Clayton was like, "Come in here." Sorry. I don't know. There's so many issues in the world. I don't know the answer. Clayton's going to have a much different answer than me because I was raised in a very sheltered environment in a small town, and it was hard for me when I started seeing what I saw as an adult because I was not exposed to it. I mean, I was just, I went to the movie at 9. It had to be a PG movie. I wasn't allowed to see PG-13, and then they made sure I got home. Or at 7, I had to be home by 9. It was a 2-hour movie. That's how my life was. It was, so for me, I think that they knew. I think it was so expensive to clean up. I think that it's overlooked. Again, I think that it's really easy to justify things in life when everything is going your way. it's easy to justify a new car, a new house, a new everything, and to feel comfortable when your life's going well. And I think that a lot of times it's hard to be confronted, I guess is the word I'll use, by what's really going on out there, right? What's really happening. So I think that this has been going on for a long time. The World Health Organization, the UN, all these different governments knew it. They wanted to clean it up. But I mean, again, another issue I think is when you're sitting in a boardroom, and I've been in those rooms, and you see the cost, maybe 2 billion, maybe trillions of dollars to clean something up, right? Who's going to pay for that? How do you organize that? How do you operationalize that? How do you get that to happen? Which is why I do like what Reid's doing, because I do not like to lead by fear. I don't like sensationalism. I'm just going to be really honest with you guys. It's hard. Clayton and I are different. He doesn't try to lead by fear. I don't mean that, but I'm very much, I'm a researcher. So I want to just be practical and logical and talk about facts. And so I would say this: all you have to do is pull the data and the reports from the World Health Organization, and like I said, the UN, and what they produced for countries, and what they showed as far as heavy metals and what was happening, and how it was causing an increase in autism and cognitive functioning difficulties, and fertility, and obesity, and diabetes, and COPD, right? It was everywhere. But then how do you solve it? And I like Root because it's one person at a time. You're offering solutions to people. When you have all of this going on, anywhere from the pandemic to the decision whether to be vaccinated or to use a mask, I mean, there's all these issues, right, that everyone's disagreeing on. I always say, let's just bring it back to this. What's something we can do together today? What's something that we can do to help all of us, regardless of your political belief, regardless of your socioeconomic status? What are we going to do to help people? And I think for me, having a background as a psychologist, understanding, I'm sure Sasha will agree with me. When you get sick, it's the health issue, right? But it's also your mental, emotional health of how am I going to make it tomorrow? How do I even get out of bed? This is something we don't talk about. I'm going to just tell you, as a psychologist that has a master's and a doctorate degree and postdoc, there were days I didn't want to get out of bed, right? There were days I did not. Well, then maybe I should just die. Like, I can't deal with this, right? So I think that I think people knew. I think that people have known. I think it's so expensive and so hard to environmentally, through the air, land, and water, and with people, detoxify things. So how does it cost? What does that cost as well? So I think having a product that can be put in the hands of individuals to organically grow, to help people, starting one person at a time, makes me feel really good, because it's something that I think can help people, because they're being exposed to toxins and we're not getting rid of them. And like I said, we're passing them on to each generation. And when I hear data like 1 out of every 14 to 1 out of every 7 boys is going to have autism, we've got to do something, whether the government knew or not, whether people with trillions and billions of dollars knew and didn't do anything. I don't know. But what I do know is that we need to help people. We need to do something about it, because if we know, and then we say, well, it's just too much, I'm not going to get out of bed, right? I'm going to stay in bed. I don't know if that should give people a reason to understand that they have a purpose. And my big mission has been, you talk about healthcare, let's talk about wellness first, because you wouldn't have to spend trillions of dollars on healthcare if we took care of our wellness and our health. And so, again, I feel like I'm getting on my soapbox today, and I apologize, but it's.
No, we love it.
We love it. You have to drop the mic now and go do your other part.
I do.
Now it's my turn.
I enjoyed meeting you guys. Thank you.
Likewise.
I talked way too much, and next time I'd love to just hear you talk, and I won't talk.
It's his show. He's asking questions.
I know, but I'd rather listen.
Thank you so much for coming.
So as I let her get up, so what she's talking about as far as the data, the World Health Organization published in 1974. It's not new. So, because now that she goes, how far down the rabbit hole do we want to go?
I like to go deep. I like to go deep.
So let's dive into this a little bit. Right. So you got the love and feeling from mama. right? Nah, you got the feather in the pillow. Now we'll bring out the hammer. So really, I mean, the World Health Organization published a lot of this data in 1974. That was the stuff that when I started diving into this 16 years ago, growing up in a veterinary practice, understanding the importance of mineral supplementation. I was taking mineral supplements when I was 8, you know, and having the conversation with my dad of why do we put a salt block in the field for horses and cows? Because they need the minerals. They'll go to it when they need it. Well, how come we don't do that with people? Say, well, you need sea salt, right? Because we're made of seawater. You have to have these trace minerals. And then they're like, well, have iodized salt. It's like, well, it takes all the good stuff out, it puts the bad stuff in, causes hypertension and everything else. You go, huh, is this intentional? Do you think that there's a group of, we'll say a ruling class that goes back multiple generations, maybe thousands of years or hundreds of years, or depending on how you want to look at it, that's known about this stuff, is maybe taking some stuff off the table to say, you know what, we used to do this, we won't do that anymore. Case in point, there's a product right now that's of great discussion in the world, that's been around for a very, very long time, very valuable in the veterinary industry. It's called ivermectin. It's an anti-parasitic, right? We deworm animals twice a year. If you have livestock, you deworm them. You get rid of the parasites because of what they get access to or what they're exposed to in the environment or eating. And the same thing with dogs and cats. If they have heartworm risk, you give them ivermectin. When's the last time that we did a parasite cleanse or we dewormed ourselves? I was talking to my colon hydrotherapist that grew up in Eastern Kentucky in the Appalachian Mountains. She's 72 years old. She's like, I remember growing up, we would get dewormed twice a year.
Yeah, me too.
Why is it?
Oh, wow.
Why is it that we don't do that anymore? And why is it that people are talking about seeing parasites in these vaccines? Why is it that they hate ivermectin? Because it is a parasiticide. Why is it that demographically, when we talk about lead, why is it that demographically, what demographic group has the highest rate of unwed mothership, decreased IQs, and highest rate of violent crime in different areas of this country? When we look at Detroit, Chicago, DC, Baltimore, Atlanta, you go, where's all the white people? I'll just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
They don't exist in those environments. You go, these are the areas of the country that have the highest lead concentration in the soil. So during the summer, when kids are outside playing and they kick up dust, you're inhaling more of it on top of what's in the lead paint, on top of what's in the lead freaking pipes. The level of exposure is insane. Is it known? Abso-freaking-lutely. Is it intentional? Abso-freaking-lutely. But what they learned long ago is that if you're going to do eugenics campaigns, they tried some mechanisms back in the 50s, killed 6 million Jews, 16 million gypsies, and a bunch of other people that they didn't like, that were dissidents, right? That didn't fit the mold that they were trying to construct for, and they had a final solution. And they found that, well, you can't do it all that way because it's too fast and you'll piss people off and you can't kill them all at once. You got to do it slowly and let them choose. Let people choose to do it, because if you're really satanic, you have to show everybody, and we have free will. So you got to put it in front of them. You got to tell them what you're going to do, but you can scare the snot out of them. You can deceive them, and then they'll choose to do it. And then because it's their free will, it's okay. So what they do, they put the final solution in a freaking syringe. It's genius, right? So is it designed? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is it much more grandiose and developed over multiple generations that people can't conceive how this is really gone about? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you do about it? You do everything. Do we get pissed off about what's happened and what's been done and what's in the environment and everything? No, because you can't control that. Can we go clean out the lead pipes in different areas and say, we're going to replace all the pipes? No, we don't have the ability to do that. Are we going to go through and say we need to clean up the environment because geoengineering has been horrible and the spraying of chemtrails for the last 30 years has been horrific. The amount of barium and mercury and aluminum and God knows what else has been sprayed to wash down upon us on top of what's in our soil, what's in our water supply, what's in every aspect of our life. Can you control that? No, you can't. And if you took the time worrying about it, you might as well just die. And that's what Christina talks about. Like, you get to the point, it's like, how can I live in this world? There's so much darkness around me, but then you have to understand that we are light.
Yep.
If you get into our microbiology, you look at a microscope, you get down deep enough, you're like, oh, we're glowing.
Right.
We're just this big bundle of energy. We are Neo in the Matrix, baby. Right? You got Captain America behind you, but it's a matter of understanding what we are, that no matter how dark it gets, light always wins. Light doesn't win if it doesn't choose to shine. That's the point we're at right now. So through this process, and we can talk about pineal gland calcification, which is really the core of this, is the light center of the brain, that little gland that isn't talked about, that controls a lot of stuff, melatonin production. Why is it that most commercials on TV either are for alcohol, drugs, or sleep? Right? It's pillows, it's sheets, it's mattresses, or it's medication, or it's supplements to help you sleep. Why? Because they've calcified your pineal glands so you can't function. And this is where the combination of the Trinity, where clean slate decalcifies your pineal gland. It removes the fluoride, takes that away real quick. Restore will actually help restore your gut, because 95% of your neurotransmitters are produced in your gut, not in your brain.
Absolutely.
Zero in, my little favorite friend, these little guys, the golden pill of greatness, actually boosts your dopamine and serotonin levels. So you control it by your intention. I was talking with a really good buddy of mine, Gramps Morgan, who's multi-Grammy award-winning reggae star. He's training our daughter on music right now. And I was talking to him about it this morning because he had a show down in Africa a few weeks ago. He flew 24 hours to go down to Africa and did one show and then flew 24 hours back. So I gave him a challenge. I'm like, Gramps, take 3 capsules of Zero In when you're down there before your show. It's like, why? I'm like, just tell me what you do. I'm like, how long do you do a show for? He's like, it's an hour and a half. If I'm really on, I'll go for 2 hours because that's a long show. I'm like, okay. I said, so take 3 Zero In before the show. And if you want to test it out, take 2 when you're doing rehearsal, when you're getting everything set up. But just take 3, watch what happens. He's like, what's going to happen? I'm like, you'll probably go for about 2.5 hours. He's like, there's no way. I don't do that. I'm like, just watch. So he got home, talking to him last week. He's been home for a couple of weeks and I didn't bring it up. I'm like, Gramps, how was the show? Did you take your Zero In? He's like, dude, you didn't see the video? I'm like, no. He's like, how'd you do? He's like, people were like, what's Gramps on? He's like, I was so pumped. He's like, this is amazing. He's like, I went for 2.5 hours. I'm like, yeah, I told you so. He's like, this was absolutely nuts. He said, I was out until 6 o'clock in the morning. I was still alert and awake. I said, yeah, but then when you wanted to go to sleep, you were out, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, is that the product? I'm like, yeah, it's dopamine and serotonin. He's like, this is nuts. Like, better living through biochemistry. So, I was like, look, what can we do with Music Cares and the Grammy board? How can we take the music industry to get rid of the Xanax and the drugs and everything the music industry is talking about and use this amazing channel? Because he's like, hey, I have to go down to Miami on Saturday because I'm gonna go hang out with Busta Rhymes and a bunch of his buddies. I'm like, dude, I love Busta Bus. It's like, take some Zero In, have everybody take 3 capsules down there. The party will be absolutely amazing. He left them at home, of course. It's just amazing what can be done when done properly. And if we do this right, if we collectively come together to make ourselves better, like Christina was hitting on, it's one person at a time, because that's the only one we're responsible for. It's much like being on a flight. Moms know I'm taking care of my kids first, right? Because they're like, I'm taking care of the kids. But if you're on a flight and you're getting the pre-flight explanation from the flight attendants, and they say, if the cabin depressurizes, the oxygen masks are going to come down. I almost got kicked off of a flight a couple days ago because I had to go to Vegas for asking this question, because the flight attendant, she was on Southwest Airlines. She's like, look, if the cabin depressurizes, the air will come down and you have the mask. I'm like, question? I was sitting in the first row, so I'm a dick. And I'm like, do we have to take off the first mask to put that mask on? And then when we put that mask on, do I have to put the other mask back on over it? How does this work? I need to, and she's like, you don't have to use the other mask. I'm like, are you sure? Because do we, and she looked at me and answered it again. I'm like, I'm kidding. She's like, don't do that. I'm like, hey, and we just got to know, but they tell you, put the mask on yourself, take care of yourself first before you help anyone else. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can be of no benefit to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the premise of do what you can to take care of yourself, and then be a good steward, right? If you're a good human, our job is to not only take care of ourselves, but then take care of our community, because that's what we're made to do. We are not made to be isolated. We are not made to be socially distanced. We need community. That's why we love social media, because it brings us together, right?
Mm.
And we've lost a lot of our humanity because of the game, almost like it's intentional. Take us away from direct contact. Put everybody on a phone. Right? It's like, oh, someone liked what I said. I can go talk to people in my office and go, you're an idiot. And they'll tell me, you're an idiot. I'm like, you liked what I said. I'm like, all right. So you really just have to understand what the big game is. And I mean, I could go for hours on this subject and what I really think. But yeah, is it constructed? But you can't spend a lot of time anymore on that. That time is past.
Mm.
And it's just like all this COVID conversation with people that are like, do you know what's in the vaccines? And do you know how bad they are? I'm like, yeah, we knew that a year and a half ago. Actually, I knew that, my wife was working at Bristol Myers Squibb 16 years ago on these vaccines and HIV, and they didn't work then. They killed all the dogs, and they knew this stuff doesn't work. It should never be used in humans. And they said, hey, we can do this now, and let's have the government sign off on the waiver. So when we kill people, we have no liability.
Mm.
Do you remember that part of the story? And they go, all right, now let's get everybody to do it. And you go, are you going to choose? Because a mandate is not a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
It's them telling you, you should do this, and you have the ability. And it's funny because you have some of my buddies that are here that played professional sports and grew up in areas of the country that, are not as ethnically diverse as where we live now. And they're like, all of our family, they're not getting vaccinated. Like when we look at the United States, I'll just use the language everyone else uses. You look at the Black population in the United States, they're not getting vaccinated because they remember the freaking Tuskegee experiments. And they're like, hold on, you guys tried to do this with us with syphilis. That didn't go over very well. You know what? We're not doing this again. It's like, we learned the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is not cool. And then other people are like, you got to do this. And like, now I have blood clots and, friends are dying. And I go, oh yeah, you chose to do this. You knew, we told you, you were warned. It's in the book. It says you will be deceived. You will choose. And a third of you are going to die because of it. I mean, read Revelations. It's all there for you. I mean, they put it in the damn book. They're like, here, you can read it. So the Christian community is really going, what is going on? I'm like, did you miss the last chapter? Like, you're not studying. You're going to church and saying that you're involved, but you're actually not engaged. And so it's one that you really can't worry about, the big picture until you take care of this one. The most important environment is the one that you can control. And that's what we have to clean up first. And, I can say that we're doing it better than most. I can say with my 16 years of work, I've never seen the outcomes that we're getting. And I've worked with hundreds of thousands of people. I've trained doctors all over the world. I've lectured all over the world, and not as many countries as Christina's been in. But what we're seeing now as far as outcomes and the data that we're seeing and the results, because that's what everything is based upon. There's the outcome word is really the only thing, in my opinion, that is of most importance. It's not about money. It's not about recognition. We all are judged on that one word. If you're a parent, what are your kids like? If you're a CEO, what's your performance like? If you're a musician, what's your performance like? If you're an athlete, what's your performance like? What outcomes are you creating? Mm-hmm. That is what we're judged on. Why is Tom Brady the greatest football player of all time? Is it because he's a physical freak? No, he's just won more Super Bowls than anybody. The top surgeon in the world. Why is he the top surgeon in the world? Is it he's so gifted? No, he just has better outcomes, right? The top paid CEOs in the world. Is it because of anything more than them doing really, really well? Well, they could do some really scammy stuff, but it's based on their outcomes, right? Yeah. That's what we're judged on. So on our side, our success in every aspect comes from our ability to create amazing outcomes. And, you know, as you heard from Christina, you can see she's a little bit different. She is uncompromising in what she's doing, because what you have to understand, which is different than any other company she's been in, and this is where she had that cognitive dissonance of being in pharma. She had arguments with CEOs of saying, look, if we put this out, it's going to hurt people. And they're like, yeah, we don't care. We're about making money, right? Here, everything she's doing is to take care of her family. You don't do things to hurt your family, typically.
Exactly.
Right? Unless you're a really bad person, and then we don't have those in our family anyway. We were pretty good at washing them out. They just don't fit in. You know, so if your focus is always around your family, and our family's huge now, like I said, it's over 50 countries, over 40,000 people and growing. It's probably more than that now. It's going to be in the millions here pretty quick. And if you know that that's who you serve, if you do that well, you'll always have what you need, right? And I think the big part is like she's hitting on. Think of it this way. Elon Musk did a great job of calling bullshit on part of the conversation earlier this week when the comment was made that, oh, $6 billion can end world hunger. And he said, fine, I'll sell, and he tweeted back, I'll sell my stock. I'll sell $6 billion in stock right now. Show me the plan. And I want it fully auditable, and I want it open source so everyone can see where the money goes. Let's go right now. But what if you don't have to sell stock? What if you created a business model that instead of a couple individuals getting all of that money, that it's already dispersed? It's already in the hands of the people that actually created the value. That's how you change commerce. That's how we get back to community development, right? Then when people talk about investing in your communities, all right, put your money where your mouth is. So we did. Like, great, I'm going to take 47% of everything we make, and I'm going to put it back into the people that generate the value that we know is what the value of the company is, because it's people. Always has been. Doesn't matter what type of corporation you have. The value is always in people. The greatest investment you'll ever make is not in Bitcoin. It's not in cryptocurrencies. It's not in stocks. It's not in clean slate. Top five greatest investments ever. But it's in people. You invest in yourself. You invest in those around you. And it's one of the things I love doing of working with kids, right? And, you know, of kids of all ages. And when I was back in Washington, where I grew up, I was training, you know, college basketball players. And watching kids that kind of one of my favorite projects, I got to give props to Jamal. And we have the same last name, which was great. But he grew up without a dad in a hard part of Seattle, smoked a lot of weed because, you know, that's what kids did. Came to college, was this close to getting kicked out and going to jail. I had to sit in court with him and tell the judge, look, he's with me now. This is my kid. And they're like, he's 6'8" and doesn't look like you. I'm like, this is my kid. And to watch watch this kid develop and work with him for 2 years, and then watch him go to a different university and tear people up, and then to lose contact because I moved and such, and find each other on Facebook and ask how he's doing. He's like, I've been playing professional basketball for 6 years overseas. I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, that's so cool. And you look at that and you go, these are the things that there's no amount of money that you can get, right? It's not about the money. It's okay. It's like Sasha was talking about. When you have experiences, you go, okay, great. How can I pay this back? How can I pay it forward? What value can I give to humanity? It goes back to my education. I have a degree in humanities. Great. How am I going to apply that? So that's really the focus. I mean, it's a little bit different of saying, oh yeah, we did this to make a lot of money and sell some products. Hopefully that provides a little bit of insight, a little bit different than most people would answer. But
yeah.
I'm a little bit different. So is she.
we love the genuine responses. I wanted to give Sasha an opportunity to ask a question if you had anything before because I want to get into like the outcomes you're seeing with Root, but Sasha, did you?
In terms of the zeolite, I've been promoting that to my cancer clients because of the one thing that I noticed. Obviously, I look at blood, I analyze blood. I'm a nutritional microscopist. I also am a colon hydrotherapist. So yeah, so I see a lot of parasites coming out as we cleanse, especially those that are taking clean.
Oh yeah.
But
well,
yeah,
keep going.
I actually had a few myself the other day, which was quite shocking because I think I'm normally pretty clean, but I was quite surprised. But yeah, in terms of the blood, all right, I look at my clients' blood all the time. And one of the things that was a struggle, and even for myself, even after cleansing for 7 years, was the heavy metal residue that we see in the oxidative stress test, right? And I've done so many detoxes. I have cleansed till there is no more cleansing, but that was the challenge with all of my elimination and everything. It's like, hold on, how do I get this heavy metal out? Now, I haven't had my clients on Clean Slate for very long. It's been 2 months, right? So I can't speak to their results as yet. I want to wait a little bit longer to see. But do you find that that's where, in terms of cancer clients, do you find that that's pulling it out? Because we all know 95% of cancers are coming from environmental and lifestyle.
It's a couple fold, right? So the important part, and this is where the Trinity really comes in, and it's really, really important to understand, the value of the Trinity with the three. So Clean Slate, Zero In, and Restore, and they're siblings, and they're in the Trinity for a reason, right? So if we look at cancer, we'll hit on cancer and how cancer applies to other parts. And here's one key thing to this: cancer doesn't kill people. The overgrowth of fungus kills people. Right. Yeah. So that's the crucial part. When Christina was an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins, it was the one thing she was going over is if you did necropsies properly, you'll see when you open people up, someone dies of cancer, they're like a fungal forest. It's just horrible. They're like, well, they had cancer. It's like, yeah, but that wasn't what killed them. It's the same thing with this COVID stuff. It's not the respiratory things it's killing you. It's the decrease in your immune system and the mold and fungus that we're exposed to, because there's 2 types of black mold that people are being exposed to now that have never been seen before, almost like they've been put in our environment somehow, maybe aerosoled into the air, so we're breathing it in. And when your immune system drops because maybe you've been injected with something, that you have this explosion that takes place, because what we know is these vaccines drop your immune system, your innate immune system gets wiped out, and your body can't control its environment anymore. So we know that heavy metals are the primary cause. You have glyphosate, you have other environmental toxins. Stress is a huge one, right? And for women, there's so many different kinds of stress. We were actually at a breast cancer event last week and hearing breast cancer survivors talk about their experience. And one of the most horrific things that we heard from multiple women was the domestic abuse that they were enduring prior to getting cancer. And some of them actually endured it while they got cancer, where they were dealing with cancer, and they all left those environments because of the toxicity. Toxicity is not just physical, right? To where, I'm exposed to these heavy metals. it's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional, it's physical in like actually physical stress. So there's so many different components. And it's been amazing to see outcomes that address all of them. But when addressing the issues, and this applies to the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect, and I'll hit on that. And if I don't hit it clearly, tell me. You've got to remove the metals and toxins. And what clinoptilolite does, and it's proven and published, you can look this up if you want to. You can look up clinoptilolite in cancer, and that's the crystal that we use to make clean slate. It upregulates tumor suppressor genes. It tells your cells to be healthy again, because a healthy cell recognizes that it's abnormal and says, oh, I have genes that I need to turn on. I need to turn on P21 and P27. Those genes become active. It causes programmed cell death, apoptosis, which is how abnormal cells know to die. If you're toxic and polluted and not working properly, when those cells become abnormal, they start telling other cells around them to be like them. That's how cancer proliferates. If your immune system is working properly, that cell becomes abnormal. It's like, oh, I'm not normal anymore. I need to die. Out they go. So you have that process. Then you have the importance of, cleaning up the microbiome, right? And you hear the conversation about the gut-brain connection. That's where Restore is so crucial, right? Clean Slate's going to help remove a lot of the toxins, the heavy metals from the gut, but from head to toes. Because of the lymphatic system in your bloodstream, it's going to work through everything. Where does your where does your blood go? Oh, everywhere. Mm-hmm. We're good there. How do we get this stuff? Oh, there you go. So it's working through those systems to clean out everything. And those are also your primary cleansing systems. And we've seen this clinically using labs and live blood work. I have customers and ambassadors of ours, Sasha, like you're talking about, that have used other products for years. It's like, I've been doing detox stuff for so long. I'm good. I'm like, good. Start with 1 drop. They're like, why? I'm like, because it's too strong. They're like, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm like, you can do more if you want. We recommend 10 drops twice a day because that's what will do amazing. But we don't recommend people start there. They're like, well, I've done all this stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, your choice. And they're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Because this is different, right? And it is capable of going in and not just trying to flush stuff, but going in and grabbing onto things, right? And saying, you know what, you don't belong here. Come here. So you think of what Clean Slate is like a bunch of little green garbage trucks, right? They're just going to go in and they're going to scavenge what they need. They're going to lock onto it and they're going to haul it out. And that's it. So when you do that, and then you start killing off the mold and the fungus and you regenerate the gut, and then you start boosting dopamine and serotonin, so you actually feel good. Yeah. And there's something that you have to understand about your mental capacity, and just feeling good and being positive controls everything. If you feel good, everything else will come back in line.
Absolutely.
And those things, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So and especially when dealing with cancer, right? So if you're in that place, the mental component is the biggest thing, because I remember sitting with my pastor's dad, in the hospital, and he was like I think he was 80 or 70 or 80. And I sat with him and held his hand when everybody else was there. As they were, spending time with him. And I just told them, I whispered to him, it's like, it's okay for you to go. You don't have to stay here anymore. You've done amazing. Your son, your daughter, you've got multiple grandkids. You've got all of this stuff you've done. You've got all these people that are here that love you. It's okay for you to go now. And he went to sleep, or after I left, and didn't wake up. Because when it's time, if you want to go, you're going to go. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you want to fight, and if I'm going to kick this thing's ass, mentally you go, okay, I'm going to get better. So and that's so crucial, and especially for women, because like Christina talks about she's had a spinal tumor, a brain tumor. She had Lyme disease when she was 19. She lost her memory. She won National History Day in middle school because she had a photographic memory. She could look through a book and just remember everything. She lost her memory when she was 19. But when she came out of it, God giveth, God taketh away. But he can give you more than you've ever imagined. Because when she came out of that, and she mentioned it, I don't know if you heard it before, when she said when she's creating a formula, she'll read everything. And she actually means that literally.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
She speed reads with an eidetic memory. It's not fair. Anything that she's ever seen, heard, read, or been around, she has complete recall of. It is the worst thing to have a wife remember everything that's ever gone on. I mean, we were taking a trip to Vegas. She's like, you remember last time that we were here? We went to this hotel. We went here and here and here for dinner. And then we went back and we did this and this. And we watched this and we did that. I'm like, no. She's like, that's what we did. I'm like, so yeah, not going to win this one. Yeah. So, but yeah, she's not like us. She isn't. And that's the hard part, because we're not all made equally. We are not all given the same gifts, right? She was put here for a specific reason. We built a company, an entire model around what she was put here for. And that's what's really unique, is finding, this community and allowing people to use their skills to do what we can all do collectively, which has changed a lot of lives. It's not something that one person can do on their own. It's only done through constant, systemic, global collaboration. And that's just it. That's why we're here, right? I mean, because, we look at this and you go, Chris, you have your show, you have, your experience. You go, well, without that, I'm not here. Without what we're doing, we don't get connected. Sasha doesn't get to hang out, have tea and go, well, yeah, I help a lot of people and I'm pretty cool. And, so it's the fun part of just watching this development and changing lives, and from a health standpoint, changing lives from a financial standpoint, all for doing one simple thing, which is just sharing the ability to become amazing. So.
Did that complete your answer, Sasha? Did you get the answer you needed, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I work with a lot of cancer clients, and I can get them. I don't say I can get them, but mindset is a huge part, right? And I work with them across the board. So we're dealing with mind, body, and spirit. Okay, but like I said, I feel like the missing piece for me was the environmental toxins. They're constantly attacked with that, right? And that's the part that is just constant. Once we get them, the counts are down and they're feeling great, and they don't have to go down any allopathic route anymore. They've changed their diet and they're getting nutrient absorption. But then it's like, okay, but how do I address the metal toxicity? And that's where Clean Slate, I believe, from my experience so far, is meeting that gap.
So the other part you can do, being a colon hydrotherapist.
Yeah.
Take 2 sachets of Restore, like the night before you're going to do it, or have your clients do it. Since you've been doing it for a long time, like I'll use myself as an example. Yeah. My first hydrotherapy session was my 40th birthday. That was my birthday present. Okay. And I've been, my hydrotherapist, she's 72. She's absolutely amazing. She's very gentle. She talks very nice. You talk about having an intimate relationship with someone. I'm like, yeah, I can talk to Millie, and Millie's like, you look a little inflamed. I'm like, we're close. We know one another. Yeah. And but this stuff works so well. I mean, and she's done this. She's been a hydrotherapist for over 20 years. And she's like, look, I have people that I've started on Clean Slate and Restore that I've seen for 6 months or years. They have stuff coming out of them now that I didn't know was there.
Yeah, I saw stuff. And I did.
So Restore is so strong as an antifungal and anti-parasitic. And I've been doing this for 4 years. I've tested this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 2 Restore tonight, and I'm going to take a bunch of drops of Clean Slate. I'm going to take 2 Restore in the morning, and then I'm going to go see Millie. And the same way, I've had parasites come out of me, and Millie's going, oh, what? And the last couple of times I've gone, and we haven't gone in a little bit, which is terrible, but the depth of liver cleanse that I've had is so freaking insane. And what's really cool is we actually have a full-blown, and it turned out being a 1-year case study where we've actually reversed non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 10-year history of non-alcoholic fatty liver. Started on clean slate, and in a couple months, liver enzymes and everything had dropped into what was a more normal range. But after a year, he's on the low level of normal. His liver is normal and ideal.
Amazing.
And you go, okay, that's pretty good. So
I have another question. So one of my protocols when I'm working with clients, I get them to get their blood, alkaline, and get all of those sugars out of their diet. But Restore has sugar.
Yes.
And that's why I haven't recommended Restore to my cancer coaching clients yet.
So it's a great question. So we use, this is all mama's genius. We use the raw cane sugar. And if you look at raw cane sugar is actually a catalyst. And if you look at the amount of sugar in it, it's less than 3 grams, which means it's low glycemic. So diabetics can use it. And if you look at the outcomes that we have, diabetics want to use it because a lot of our diabetics are no longer diabetic.
Right.
But a little sugar done strategically with the right quality, right? We're not talking about table sugar, really cheap shit,
of course.
right? Really, really good stuff with intention that it serves as a catalyst to make everything else work together. Because in the same thing goes with 0N. When people look at 0N and there's 100 milligrams of caffeine. Yes, it's anhydrous caffeine, which is different than coffee and regular caffeine, which is actually a catalyst for dopamine production and a dopamine buffer. And what we've proven with heart rate variability is looking at a few cases, multiple cases. One, we see a reduction in biological age of decades really quickly. But when looking at heart rate variability, you don't see a change in rhythm, right? Which if you take 2 caps, what we studied is looking at 2 capsules of 0N, 10 drops of clean slate, and then doing a second one with 2 capsules, 10 drops, and a sachet of Restore. So that's 200 milligrams of anhydrous caffeine at one time, right?
Yeah.
So imagine taking 2 cups of coffee, you get jittery, right? Your heart rate goes, broop. Your heart rate doesn't change. Your heart rate variability shifts.
Okay.
So it doesn't affect your heart rate because the mechanisms are completely different. And it's the difference of having someone that comes from biotech and pharma that understands steady state, that understands delivery, that's gone to Harvard to study nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, that understands the use and application of different chemical pathways to get things, to do things. Like caffeine is a stimulant. So that means it can be used as a stimulant, but it's also a catalyst.
Nice.
So if you apply it as a catalyst, you can cause, and that's why 0N is so amazing, because you can take a capsule and it clicks in about 10 minutes. What's up?
And that's the funny thing, because I am caffeine sensitive. Like I get heart palpitations. I cannot do coffee. And I stopped doing coffee the minute I found out I had cancer because of the reaction that it gave me. But yeah, I can take 0N and I feel nothing but energy and happy feelings.
How many do you take?
I take 2.
Okay, perfect. At a time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. Me, like for most of my days, I take 3. And
I take 2 in the morning, and I feel like that's all I need. I'm already an excited person.
Hey, kill it out. And it's figuring out what works best for you, because it's a matter of understanding. With dopamine and serotonin, it helps you overcome stress. So based on your build, your body type, your lifestyle, what's going on, and your activity levels and what you're doing. Like my son, our 17-year-old who had cancer when he was 2, he's a basketball player. He's 6'4" now, and he's pretty good. He'll take 3 capsules in the morning because he's so OCD and ADD that he crushes it in school, and then he'll take another 1 or 2 before games, and they zone out. And what we have a world record holding outdoor distance swimmer, world record holder in outdoor distance swimming for like 20 years. He did a case study for us using clean slate and 0 in 30 days, he saw a 40% reduction in his reaction time.
Wow.
You know what happens if you take any athlete and you improve their reaction time by 40%? That's damn near illegal.
Yeah.
I was going to say drug test.
Yeah, no, and that's just it. And that's why we had to get banned substance approval on 0 because I had a colleague of ours who's a professional football coach. And he's like, my son gave me one of these pills. I've never had anything like this. And I get pitched on everything. What is this? And is it legal? Because if it's legal, I want to give it to our quarterback. And it's different. You know, it's having something that really does what it's supposed to do. When we were getting the NPN number and the approval with Health Canada, the Canadian government came back to us. They approved Restore and Clean Slate really quickly, but they came back to us with 0 They're like, we can't approve it. I'm like, okay. And my advisor who is helping with, she's like, you're going to laugh at this and you're going to use this in marketing. And I strongly encourage you to use this in marketing because this is facts. She's like, they came back and they wanted to know why you were using such high quality ingredients in the concentrations you're doing so, because no one's ever done it. And I'm like, can you tell them it's because of the outcomes? Because the product works? She's like, yeah, that's what I told them, but I needed to come back to you and make sure that that's what you wanted to say. I'm like, yeah, it's because the product works. And we're starting to see that, like I was talking about with Gramps and music. If you're in performance, dopamine and serotonin is amazing. It's why, Rick James said cocaine's a hell of a drug, right? Because cocaine and heroin will boost your dopamine levels for like 30 minutes and then you crash and then you'll chase it and you're never going to find it again. Mm-hmm. What if you're able to give your gut the ability to produce dopamine and serotonin to the level that you desire and completely controlled by your intention? That's what's insane. No jitters, no crash, no come down, no risk of negatives, no addiction risk, no tolerance. It's just feeding your body the tools it needs to do what it really wants to do. It's starting to unlock our potential, and it's the fun aspect of what we're seeing. I remember last year over the summer, because with my son playing AAU basketball, right? So summer basketball. And so I had four of these kids use 2 capsules before a game. So I wanted to see what they did. And they weren't really in shape because they'd finished high school basketball, which has no level of fitness to it. And I'm like, look, you guys aren't going to fatigue because dopamine makes you not fatigue. You will get tired with your lungs because you're out of shape, but you will not fatigue. So here's what I want you to do. Go all out. When you need a break, you'll come over, you'll get rest, you'll go back in. So the second game, our guard, minute left, 2-point game. I watched him get the ball either through a steal or a rebound 3 times in a row, knock 6 straight free throws down, didn't flinch, didn't change his form, knocked 6 free throws down in crunch time in the last minute of the game.
Wow.
And when he came over to the bench, I'm like, how'd you feel? He's like, I didn't feel anything. I'm like, and there's your sign. And we watch professional athletes that get paid millions of dollars when in crunch time, and this is why professional sports is so great to watch, right? It's not because they're great athletes. No, we want to watch them choke, right? That's the entertainment. Is you are so skilled that 9 out of 10 times you can do this repetitively, but you put a little pressure on a situation. You go, hey, can you go to this line and make two shots without contestation with 30 seconds left or 3 seconds left in the game and you're down by 1? Can you make 2 so you win? Clank, clank.
Right.
World Cup, England.
The Euro final.
I was going to say England. I was like, what are you doing?
And I was watching that. I'm like, why do you put a 19-year-old kid
just don't.
in the 5th spot in the most, because if it goes that far, you are in the most pressure situation anyone's going to be in. You're in Wembley Stadium, 100,000 people going, we're going to kill you if you miss this.
Exactly. Too much pressure.
You are going to become a god if you make it. And David Beckham's going, he ain't going to make it.
But one more question for you, Clayton. You talked about 0 and the power of it. But is it good for anxiety and depression? Because
absolutely.
dopamine and serotonin is like necessary to combat that.
You know, it's funny because here's the question. What's the cause of it?
Blocking of, toxins blocking those neurotransmitters in the colon.
Right? Goes back to toxicity and neurotoxicology.
Yeah.
If you can remove the metals, and then you start to boost dopamine and serotonin, what happens? And this takes a little bit of work. And if you are being treated for those issues, you need to work with your healthcare professional, because the dosage of the medication you're using will need to be adjusted. Eventually, you won't need it. Right. So you have to be very careful in those instances. It's not something you want to do alone. You need a professional to provide assistance in it. But yeah, you see shifts like Foles, my assistant. She's been with us now for, I think, a month. Her husband, she was just telling me earlier this week, her husband has been on Adderall since he was in 5th grade.
All right.
He's been using 0N for 2 weeks. He's no longer taking Adderall.
Nice.
He's been on it since 5th grade. He's 30.
Mm.
In 2 weeks, he's like, he takes 2 capsules of 0N now, and he's fine. He's amazing. So can you change these things? Absolutely. Because you have to get back to this one simple concept. Does a healthy system need drugs? No. Does a healthy system need medication? No. Does a healthy system have health issues? No. Because it's healthy. Exactly. Let's just get back there.
Yeah.
And then if you tweak biochemistry a little bit, can healthy become freaking outstanding? Absolutely.
And that's what we want. We want outstanding.
Give me that. Because it's great to have Captain America behind you. It's even better to feel like him. Right. And function like him. You go, you know what? I don't need the shield. Just let me be able to do what I want to do better than I've ever done before. And that's really the premise. So,
yeah, my brother actually, he actually mentioned the first time he took, because like Shasta, she got me on, and then I got all my brother, my friends, they're all on, right? My brother has taken Adderall before because, you know, growing up, his friend was on Adderall for years, and they would take it for fun. Like if he needed to clean his room or, you know, study for a test. And he said that he felt as if he had taken Adderall in the sense that his focus, when he wanted to focus on a task, it was very intense. Me personally, now, first of all, let me preface this by saying, when I take anything, whether it's some type of supplementation or alcohol, I don't respond the same as most people. My tolerance, or I don't know exactly how to describe it, but things don't affect me the same way. So I usually don't get the same results as other people. That's just my baseline. When I started taking the clean slate, which I have all three, I have the Trinity. I noticed that it was actually detoxing me. I was getting pimples. I could feel I felt my spleen discharging something or pulsating, which I've never felt at all. I could feel my kidneys, and as well as my liver, I could feel them like working, like activating. And I've done some liver flushes and things of that nature, so I'm familiar with the sensations. So that was huge for me because nothing really like detoxes me that way. But also the energy, you know, I've noticed that my energy levels are already really good. So right now it's just like I basically don't need sleep. It's pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie. As well as my memory. So my long-term memory is pretty good. I remember being 2 years old, and sometimes I'm trying to recall a certain event and the time frame, and it's a little fuzzy. But I started taking the I'm assuming this is probably like a Focus In, or just a combination of the clean slate and Focus In. And something I had been trying to recall in the past came to me just like that. And I was like, wait, why couldn't I ever remember that before? You know? So my detox is evident. My memory, my long-term memory has improved. My energy has improved. And then the other thing, and me and Sasha was talking about this earlier, my creativity has improved.
Yeah.
Oh, like crazy.
Yeah.
And that's
wild
part,
to me.
yeah. For artists, like, music writing, painting, creating, it's dopamine. And it's dopamine and serotonin. When you start to open up those neural pathways, right? You start to clean stuff out, but you open up those neural pathways. And that's why neurotransmission is so unique, right? When your brain starts really firing. Here's the example. And this is why a couple of my buddies over in the UK call me Bradley. They're like, dude, this is the limitless pill. You're like Bradley Cooper. Right. Well, that's the only comparison I'm getting to Bradley Cooper. I'm trying to grow the hair out so I can have a little bit
Speaking
like
of hair, Speaking of hair, my hair, right?
Oh yeah.
I dye my hair. Clearly, I dye my hair.
What?
But
I thought that was natural.
But typically, when I dye my hair blonde, it gets dry, right, and brittle. But my hairdresser, she's like, "What's going on? Your hair's so soft and it's got thicker. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, let me show you a product."
Yeah, and that happens across the board. It's funny because I've got some guys who are like, "Dude, my beard is amazing right now."
Yeah, my hair is lovely.
Your hair, your skin, your nails, and this is the key because there's so much conversations going on about collagen now, because it's like a 30-year cycle for collagen. But what people don't understand is that the primary building block for collagen is actually silica. We don't get enough of it. You don't need hydrolyzed collagen. We get the protein in our diet. What you need is bioavailable silica. So what Clean Slate is delivering, because you heard Christina talk about it, is it's delivering the trace minerals and the bioavailable silica from this natural sodium aluminosilicate. That is nature's most bioavailable, abundant source of bioavailable silica. She just figured out how to unlock it. So as you start cleaning stuff out, we're also delivering the silica, delivering your trace minerals. So your nails, I mean, I can't tell you how many women have been like, my nails used to be cracked or used to be not so strong. Now they're growing like freaking weeds. My skin gets so soft. My hair is amazing. And if you use Restore as a facial, will blow you away. Like Christina, she didn't talk about this, but she's had basal carcinomas, a couple basal cell spots, different types of skin cancer. And earlier this year, I mean, for the last couple of years, she's had what looked like freckles on her forehead, which were a bunch of basal cell carcinomas, a spot here, and then a major tumor on her nose. And she had it biopsied earlier this year. And when they biopsied this one, the needle just went straight in. And that was kind of a uh-oh moment because cancer will leave caverns as it grows. And so her dermatologist, who's the top one here in Nashville, is like, we need to do 30 rounds of radiation. I'm like, no, we're not. We're not doing that. I'm like, babe, you come from that world. We're not doing that, because she had formulated Restore really specifically for this purpose. And we were just getting it. We hadn't received it yet, the first shipment. I'm like, babe, no, we're not doing this. So we get the first shipment in. We steal our boxes for ourselves. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna use this as a facial tonight. So we do facial, put it on her face, go to sleep with it on, which is the best way. Your sheets might end up a little bit orange, but you can wash them out. It's worth it. She woke up the next morning. She's like, it's like I've had a 4-hour facial. And she washed her face off, and all the basal cell stuff on her forehead was gone.
What?
After the first night. Oh. So her nose now, and if you watch it, if you look at it on camera, her nose is perfect, and it's been a process. It's been a few months of going through this. And she's like, I need to go do this. I need to go do this. I'm like, no, just keep going. And now her nose is normal. It's gone. And we're like, and her friends are like, hold on, Christina, what'd you do to your nose? Because everyone's noticed it. I mean, it's like a big scab on her nose, and she'd peel it off and it'd bleed. And then it would, scab over again. And now it's gone. I mean, her nose is normal. You go, oh, that's statistically significant. And so, I mean, this stuff's absolutely insane, that it's so so strong because of the delivery mechanism that she created for Restore, that you can use it topically. You can use it as like an anti-inflammatory because of the black cumin seed and the turmeric in it. That, I mean, we've had people with carpal tunnel, like seriously bad carpal tunnel, just use some on their wrists, and like in 10 minutes, they have full range of motion and no pain.
Wow.
So there's many, a couple ankle injuries. I had people tell me that they put it on ankle injuries and they're like, the pain went away pretty quick. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Keep doing it. So it's intriguing to see what happens when you do things different and do it well.
I wanted to ask specifically, do you have any testimonials, or, you know, has anybody spoken about like using it for autism or?
Oh, absolutely. And on our YouTube channel, if you go to the Root brand on YouTube, and so you should subscribe to our channel. But if you do a search for autism or the spectrum, the video that and the explanation that we have on there is probably one of the best presentations on autism and the spectrum. I'll give you, can I use language that people find to be offensive?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to give you the coolest story that I've had on this. And my COO told me this. But yeah, across the spectrum from, 2-year-olds to, this was I think he's 14 or 16-year-old, nonverbal since he was 2. Right. And unfortunately that happens a lot. And what you have to understand with autism is they're there. There's just a glass wall that's up, that is allowing them not to connect properly because of the mercury and the glyphosate and such. And when you see kids that are flighty and they're looking around, that's because their serotonin pathways are all jacked up because of the mercury and the heavy metals, and the serotonin's converting to DMT, which it does naturally. That's why we dream. But imagine being on a DMT trip constantly. You're like Alice in Wonderland. That's why they're always looking around. They're like, holy hell, there's stuff going on here that is, they're seeing stuff we can't see.
Gotcha.
Right? And so this friend of our COO, she called Pat a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, look, I haven't been doing this I haven't been religious about, giving this to him and giving my son his drops. But after a couple of weeks, he started talking.
Wow.
He said he's nonverbal since he was 2. And she's like, the weirdest thing happened. She said, he has a younger sister, it's a couple of years younger than him, and they're at the dinner table. And this is the best example I could ever take, because it's like, as a parent, I'd be like, I have arrived.
Yeah.
But so they're at the dinner table and they're having a conversation at dinner, and his younger sister goes, what the frick? And without pause, the older, nonverbal since he was 2 brother looks at his sister and goes, no, that's not right. It's what the fuck. And mom goes, what? And you sit there and you go, wait a minute. You've been nonverbal since you were 2.
Right.
And how do you know to correct the context and use it properly? And Bernie Mac is so proud. So does it affect it? Yes, because in multiple aspects, right? Because when you look at the spectrum, and I've got to go here in a minute because I've got another interview, but the focus on heavy metals and removing them from the system, the glyphosate that's linked, the regeneration of the gut and the microbiome, but then the importance of neurotransmission. I can honestly say for the first time, we're the first ones that hit on every component. And that's why we're seeing the outcomes that we're seeing in that space. And it is, you talk about everything that we do, right? All the people that we work with. If I had one group to say, this is where we love to see the greatest outcomes, it is that group. Because you have these amazing kids that are just bonded, that are locked up, and they have the interesting part, and you've probably seen this if you're asking the question, is they have so many unique skill sets because of, the difference in wiring that's taken place. And when you start to unlock that and you bring the walls down and they go, I've been here the entire time. It's like, I'm not stupid. I can do all this stuff better than you can. I just wasn't able to get through this wall, and I'm here now. And you go, all right. Cool.
Beautiful.
So yes. And
beautiful. It's fun. Yeah, it's actually with autism, from the research that I've done, it almost tends to affect the genius in our community. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
well, and if you look at the real geniuses, right, that people would call genius. And this is what Ted, one of my partners, is like, you know how you become a genius? I'm like, no. He's like, other people call you a genius. He said, Steve Jobs was never a genius until everyone started to go, dude, you're a genius, right? And it's like, you created this stuff. Elon Musk, right? Because if you look at them, they all function differently because they're all Asperger's. Christina's like, you know, you're Asperger's, right? I'm like, no, I just function differently. I don't like titles. I was told I had ADD as a kid. She's like, no, you're definitely in the spectrum because you don't function like normal people and you don't care. You say things that people find to be offensive. I'm like, yeah, because I don't care. She's like, you just don't pay attention to stuff. I'm like, but yeah, but that's why you love me. She's like, true, but we have this rule in the house of talking with the kids. It's like, you can't ever say, I love you, but like, no, I love you. It's like, there is no but to this. It's like, no, sorry, there's no qualifier in how you do that. It's, you know, and I think that's the thing is it's understanding that collective aspect that we're all suffering from the same condition. We're all human, right? In most instances. Christina, I don't think is all human. No, get this. So she's an O neg blood type.
Right.
Sasha, you'll get this. Neither of her parents are O's. Oh. See, she just went, what? You can't do that. Ah.
Yeah.
She was born. I don't think she was conceived. I think she was created. I really think she was created. And we've had many other people say that same thing, you know, when we do different spiritual analysis, but it's very, very unique. But we're all human. We all suffer from the same condition, but we are all wired differently. We all have different skill sets, right? And it's using all of these unique personalities, these unique, as Liam Neeson said so well, these certain set of skills,
right?
that allow us to all come together to do much better collectively, because it's only through those unique individuals, you know, that you get that big ball of wire to go, okay, you know what, you do this well, you see this in this way, because we can all look at the same thing, we can all look at the same painting, right, the same picture. We're all going to find something different in it that we might have as an area of focus. You go, well, what do you like about this painting? Or what do you like about that painting? They go, I like this, you know, so you look at this and you go, wow, it's amazing painting of a woman. And it's like, well, I love that Faith is on the left side and that love is on her shoulder. And then someone else would go, I never saw that. I'm like, exactly. Because we see things differently. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Clayton, this has been phenomenal. Like,
yeah.
I knew this interview would run long because there's just so much to unpack. That, you know, I feel like we actually need more time, but you know, obviously we've been at it for a couple of hours here. I am so appreciative of you all taking the time out of your day to, you know, speak to us. Sasha, it's a pleasure as always. I do want to let the audience know that there's going to be a link in the description box if you're interested in trying the Root product. Obviously, we didn't get a chance to get into all of what Root does and, you know, just the benefits. But what I can tell you is, for me personally, I'm going to continue taking it and I'm going to continue looking to see how it's benefiting me. And I think that for many of you out there, you could probably benefit from using this product. It's probably the first like supplement of this nature that I've ever actually, you know, said, hey guys, I think you all should probably try this. And then of course, I would like for you to get back to me and let me know what your results were like or what you experienced. So we can kind of see like, what's the spectrum? Like what does it really help with? What, you know, is it better? What areas is it better in? And, you know, those sorts of things. So with that being said, if you all enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. Check out the Root. What's your YouTube? Root.com or
the Root brand.
The Root brand on YouTube. And I know you guys are on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yep.
Okay. So catch up with them. I'm looking forward to seeing some more outcomes, and I know Sasha is as well. So
we'll do this again. I'm ready.
Yeah,
for
okay,
round two.
definitely. We need to connect and talk about some things. But yeah, guys, subscribe to my channel as well. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I'll see you all next time.